So, funny story we need to tell the audience because they're going to see two podcasts come out within a couple weeks of each other. And be like,
we're in the same thing.
Do Lori and Shayna not have other clothes? So, we actually recorded one earlier today, and then we're recording today, this afternoon, my dad, Frank Stanfield, who many people know in the community he's I don't want to say retired because he still does it freelance, but he's been writing for 50 years. Has a journalism degree from the University of Georgia. Just an amazing writer. He's written books, but his biggest thing is he worked for the commercial, and then he retired from the Orlando Sentinel. Mm-hmm. And some of his stories are just amazing. And he's kept his sense of humor and he's not completely jaded by some of the horrific things he's seen. So I'm really excited. Of course, he's my dad, so I think he's amazing. But a lot of other people do too. So
he is awesome.
And he's got a brand new book that just came out, Murder in the Graveyard, that adds to his other books he's written and had published. And it's the story is.
You can't make it up.
You can't make it up.
Your dad, when I was reading it, or listening to it on an audiobook, that's what I said. You can't make this up. If it wasn't true, you'd be like, this is
right.
What? So yeah.
So, but I'm excited. So we'll chat with him soon.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Style Podcast, presented by Plaza Cadillac and Plaza Lincoln, where our drive to be the best starts with you.
Experience the calm and serenity of a new Lincoln today. With over 100 new Lincolns in stock, you're sure to find one you love and enjoy financing offers as low as 0%. Or take advantage of attractive offers totaling over $5,000 on our best-selling Corsair and Nautilus, the 25 Motor Trend SUV of the year. We also offer a huge selection of locally owned certified Lincolns with a 6-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Plaza Lincoln, across from the Leesburg Airport. Our drive to be the best starts with you.
Welcome to the Style Podcast. We'd like to thank our presenting sponsors, Plaza Lincoln and Plaza Cadillac. We'd also like to thank Disability Consultants and Eustis Roofing. Today, Shayna and I are a little partial to our guest because it's Shayna's dad, author Frank Stanfield. He has written an amazing book. He's written more than one book, but he's written an amazing book this time about something that's just bizarre that happened here in Lake County. And I have to say, I'm listening to the book right now. And first of all, I just can't even believe this happened in Lake County. I remember when it happened. I remember when all this went down and you were covering the trial. But I don't even know where to start. It's so bizarre. You've got to just start right off.
I remember all of it. Of course, you're my dad, but I remember everything before the trial ever started, just, because we were friends with the extended family. Mm-hmm. And it's horrible.
It is. It's just weird from the beginning because here's what happened. So this guy named Ian Anselmo, he calls 911 and he's so distraught you can hardly hear what he's saying. I killed somebody accidentally. Well, who did you kill? My stepmother, Sue Ellen Anselmo. And then he goes on to say, I strangled her. I think I strangled her. Mm-hmm. Either you killed her or you didn't, or you strangled her or you didn't.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And he's howling like a wounded animal. And so the police get there, and she had been strangled not just with a phone cord, but also manually, and he'd hit her so hard it broke her jaw.
Oh, my God.
So what happens now is, in a homicide investigation, there are no secrets. Everything gets turned upside down to look at.
But she wasn't dead.
She wasn't dead.
That was the crazy part.
But here's the thing. So they charged him with other charges, lesser charges, and waited 5 days until she died.
And it wasn't just her that died.
No, she was also pregnant. So this is a bad, horrible tragedy.
And she was so well loved in the community. She was a hairstylist for years.
Yeah.
And anyone that, whenever her name's been brought up, or of course, I've shared about your book on social media, and I'll have people reach out to me and say, we just loved Sue Ellen. She was such a good human.
Yeah. And a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
She was married to John Anselmo, had been married to him for about 13 years, I think it was. And their marriage started out okay, I guess, supposedly. And she had brought into the marriage with her little girl, Deja, her name was Chloe. He changed her name to Deja Thoris, because that's a character in an Edgar Rice Burroughs science fiction.
Okay, so we were
Every
we
single,
were just talking about that at lunch. We had lunch together, and you were like, "Where did the names come from?"
all the kids' names were very bizarre to me.
Exactly.
And I was getting a little confused when I was reading listening to the reading of the one letter from her. I'm like, wait a minute, was that Chloe or Deja? But it's the same person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and if you read the book, the Edgar Rice Burroughs book, she's a real sexy character, this princess of Mars. Mm-hmm. So,
and she was little when they got married, right?
yeah. And he adopted her. So it's interesting, as this trial gets ready to go and all that, she still considers him to be her father, because her biological father's been out of the picture for a long time.
How old was she when they got married? I don't remember.
About 7.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
that was her dad.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so what happened was, so what caused all this to begin with? What's going on here? Well, it turns out Sue Ellen had left John about 5 days earlier, I think it was. So why did she leave? Because Deja, who wrote her a letter, she had been kind of estranged from her mother a little bit because John kept trying to interfere with them. She wrote her a letter saying, the reason I left home when I was 18, ran away from home, in quotes, was that I was sexually abused by John.
That poor girl.
So that tore it for Sue Ellen. Mm-hmm. So she takes the 6 biological children she and John shared together and moved in with Deja. Now that set off a whole chain of angry emails, texts, phone calls, back and forth. You can only imagine. So what happened is, this guy, Ian, he is only a few months older than Deja. Deja, by this time, and she's about 20. Her and Ian are about 20 years old. Ian's about to turn 21.
And he is John's son from a previous
Yes.
relationship.
And there was two other children
Right.
that were John's children from a previous marriage. It's a little confusing, but So Ian takes it upon himself to interject himself into this whole thing, and he's trying to get Sue Ellen to come back to the family, all this sort of thing, and meet with me. Come meet with me. She's reluctant to do so because, for one thing, one of the things that he said was, told Sue Ellen was, I'd like to strangle you with your own intestines.
Ian said that?
Yeah. So she's, needless to say, leery.
Yeah, I'd be leery too.
But the funny thing is, they had been close.
Yeah, but
Those kind
we've
of-
had, because you're my dad, and I've always been fascinated with what you do ever since I was a little kid. I can remember listening to the police scanner. It was like fun for me until you guys decided to digitize it or make it where I can't hear it anymore, and I was very sad. But you can look at this, and if you really are looking at it as an outsider, Ian was completely brainwashed, I feel like,
Exactly.
by that dad.
Exactly.
I think kids don't know what they don't know. So if it's what they were raised to believe,
Yeah.
And he may have loved Sue Ellen, but I feel like his dad was just
it's not abnormal to them if they don't
an
know any other way.
influence that,
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because John is so domineering that he wouldn't let the children wouldn't let them have any contact with the outside world. No friends, no phones, no bicycles, no anything. And the only TV they could watch were old Bob Hope shows and the Wiggles and stuff like that.
they didn't go to school.
They were homeschooled.
They were home.
By who?
Well, it's at virtual school.
Okay, because both Sue Ellen and John was a teacher for a little while.
Yeah, and
which didn't end well.
No, it did not. He got fired for making threats to people.
Shocker.
Yeah, he's just a control freak. is what he
obviously,
is.
yeah.
Just total control. And so that's the atmosphere. And he was telling Ian and his other 2 biological children that they had been kidnapped by their biological mother. So they've got this in their head. So when she comes and gets the kids, gathers them up, takes them to Deeja's, they're saying, well, Sue Ellen kidnapped the other children. And they're just freaking out. They're completely just flipped out.
It's just it's sad to me too, because although Ian is completely responsible for his actions and what he did, I feel like Lori and I were talking about this too at lunch, that she said, well, why wasn't the dad charged?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So after Sue Ellen moves in with Deeja, actually right before, they went to the Eustis Police Department and told them about the allegation that Chloe, or Deeja, had made against John, that she had been sexually abused. So they said, okay, we'll look into it. Well, and then DCF got involved.
Did Eustis look into it?
Yes, but they filed a report or whatever. But here's the problem. It happened so many years earlier, and there was no physical evidence and no witnesses.
But at the end of the day, I think, and I'm just speaking, this is me being devil's advocate and looking at Eustis and DCF and saying 9 times out of 10, sexual abuse cases are not reported anytime near the time they happen is when it comes to things at that age. Yeah. So, of course, I can't imagine that she was going to discuss it then. So as she became a young adult, it was like, okay, this happened to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like, but there were other kids in that home.
Right. And so, I've written several stories about this about the prosecutors too. It's hard enough to get a conviction on sex abuse cases because people just have a hard time wrapping their brain around it.
That and he said, she said, or she said, he
there's
said.
That too.
We're going to take a quick break right here, and we'll be back in just a moment with more from Frank Stanfield.
Orlando homeowners, are you avoiding replacing your roof because of the cost? If you're nodding yes, you're not alone. A lot of people are in the same boat. That's why we offer several financing options to suit your needs. At Eustis Roofing, we take the time to walk through your situation, answer your questions, and find a plan that works for your needs. No pressure, no runaround, just real solutions so you can take care of your home. If your roof needs attention, let's talk. We're here to help.
Welcome back to the Style Podcast. I know we got ahead of ourselves because we're so excited about this book today, but I'm going to let Shayna tell you a little bit about her dad.
So my dad's been a reporter, writer, editor, 50 years. 50 years. Worked for, originally it was the Leesburg commercial, correct?
Right.
Then it was the Daily Commercial.
Right.
But the Orlando Sentinel.
Right.
Lake Sentinel. And one thing, I know we talked about the scanners earlier. I was the oldest of 3 girls, and anything like this always fascinated me. And so Dad always had a police scanner because he worked for the newspaper. He's a journalist, graduate of the University of Georgia for journalism degree. Go Dogs. But I loved that thing. And one thing I'll say about my dad, and I'm not just saying this because he's my dad, but it's a common thing around Lake and Sumter County that he's very well respected in what he does. It's not a gotcha type thing. People trust him. They know he's reporting facts. Mm-hmm. And so over the years, he has covered some of the most high profile, the vampire killings. Eustis seems to be we might want to, no offense, but we might want to test your water. But because I can remember that and when it was so publicized and everything, and you've written tons of books, but you've covered tons of different things. Such a good writer. And this one really hit home too, because I think I say Sue Ellen was very well thought of, and it involves so many different children. And it was just it's almost something if you didn't witness it or didn't know about it or didn't hear about it, you wouldn't even think to come up with what goes on in this.
Yeah, and the other weird thing about the initial call was, okay, where are you located? At Greenwood Cemetery. So you killed somebody or tried to kill somebody in a cemetery. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's that all about? So it turns out that John had bought a bunch of plots there. Their parish priest was buried there. So it was kind of a special place, and it's near their home. So it was kind of a meeting place for her. She left work, and she met him there.
A parish priest of where?
Some little totally splinter Catholic church. Like they didn't believe in the Pope. Okay.
A Catholic church that doesn't believe in the Pope?
Right.
They just had their own little...
Yeah, they just had it's a split kind of thing.
I'm a Southern Baptist, so me and the Pope aren't exactly tight, but... You would think if you're a splinter Catholic.
Right. So there was only 20 people in this little church. They're older. And so that just further isolates the family.
Of
from
course it does.
everybody
One more
else.
checkbox on the. We're a little different. We
Cult.
look. Cultish. It is what it is.
And that's why it became obvious that it was a cult, because John had complete control. Now, here's the thing. You mentioned the vampire case. That was in 96. This kid, 16 years old, Rod Farrell, comes down from Kentucky, picks up a cult member, kills her parents in Eustis, and she
Windorf's.
runs away with them. And then they arrest everybody, and everybody's convicted but her. Everybody's charged but her. So that's another thing. So that case, and this weird because when he picks up his little cult member, they have a little blood drinking ritual thing in Greenwood Cemetery.
Okay, I'm telling you, somebody's got to test the
Link
water
to
over
that
there.
cemetery. Yeah,
telling
that's
you.
weird.
No
And
offense.
that's
I
not
love
all.
you people that I'm friends with from Eustis, but this is weird.
And that's not all, because, okay, once Sue Ellen is buried at Greenwood Cemetery, then Deja keeps putting flowers on the grave, but the flowers keep disappearing. She says, what's going on? So somebody says, well, put a trail camera up. We'll see what's going on. Well, sure enough, John and his biological children are seen kicking the flowers in the dirt and all that kind of stuff, and removing the flowers. So she says, okay, here's what I'm going to do. This is like about a month later. I'm going to invite all my mother's friends and customers out to the cemetery, bring flowers, and just have kind of a nice little, get together out there to honor my mother.
yeah.
John shows up with Deja's 16-year-old sister, Nico, and this little 10-year-old boy, Ray Joe, who is biological
Sue Ellen.
with Sue Ellen. Yeah, they attack Deja
Physically?
physically. Nico is choking her. She's pulling out big handfuls of hair.
Was she prosecuted?
Yeah, the cops had to come, arrest her, charge her as a juvenile, all this sort of thing, in the same cemetery. So then, after that, what happens is that John has her body exhumed from the cemetery and has her cremated, which is against their little Catholic beliefs there.
Well, who even allowed him to exhume? Didn't he have to get a court order?
No,
You don't have to do that? No, that's Law and Order.
That was-
Okay, so sorry.
That was
You can just do that? Like I can literally, if a loved one of mine, I have them buried, I can literally be like, I don't want them buried there anymore. I'm just going to pick them back up and do this.
yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. And that's what happened, just for spite. And that just shows you,
Am I allowed to say I think he's evil?
you can say whatever you want.
I think he's evil.
Well, and the thing is that we need to remember is he's still walking around.
Oh yeah, he is.
He's still, I don't know if he still lives in Lake County, but this bizarre story was unfolding, and all these kids were living this way in Lake County right here.
Yeah.
Right here, and
It's
still
so
are.
crazy.
And it's so sad because the children, you wonder what's happening with the children. One of the children, a really young one, toddler, had severe Down syndrome. So what's going on
Who's
with him?
taking care of him?
Nico.
The one that physically assaulted
Yeah.
Deja.
So here's what happened. They finally have the trial, and the defense attorney says, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do, because this is such a crazy case. The family's a cult and everything else. I'm going to go with an insanity defense."
I can see it.
Okay. So then they bring in Nico to testify, and she says, "I wasn't trying to choke her. I was trying to gouge her eyes out." And then John
I
testifies.
know, that's what I said. You can't make this up.
I know. And then John testifies, and he says, "Oh, I loved her. She was my girl and all that kind of stuff. But, she would bang her head against the wall, and she would, throw dishes and scream, and she was crazy." And all
Because
that.
you sexually abused her.
The thing of it is that made me so mad in the first place, the reason that I decided I wasn't going to write a book about it, but I decided to because he kept blaming the victim.
Of course he did. He's a narcissistic
I
control
just
freak.
don't like that.
No. And I think, too, one thing I do want to point out is that out of all of this horribleness, Deja actually has gone on to live a very normal, she is doing extremely well.
Yep.
Happily married. Mom, I think, and that's a positive to hear what all that
escaped
she
the cult
grew up in
and the family.
and she was able to escape that is amazing, and she should really be so proud of it. That takes strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she's married to a really good guy, too.
Right.
He's been
She
very
is.
supportive.
Very.
So, and also, her brother, Eric, stepbrother, or whatever you want to call him, he got out of there, too.
Okay.
He's escaped. He's married now. He's doing well. And see, he was the kicking boy. He was the one that really angered John a lot. So he was beaten severely, according to Eric. So
Is there a statute of limitations on things like that? So like all the abuse, so it's not just Deja, it was also Eric. Is there a statute of limitations that they can prosecute something or charge someone with a crime that happened to those
I'm
kids?
sure there is, but nobody's doing anything about that.
I wonder why.
So anyway, so they have the trial, and it's a very bizarre trial. And Richard Hornsby out of Orlando is the defense attorney, and Nick Camuccio in Leesburg, rather Tavares, was the prosecutor. It was very well done, very well done. So they bring in all these psychological experts, all these people that are going to testify. You had about 3 experts for the defense and 1 expert for the state. Well, in doing this, it just showed how messed up that process is. Okay, so Mr. Psychologist, what evidence did you look at to come up with your opinion? Well, you didn't interview him? You didn't interview Ian? Okay, well, did you look at the body cam video? What did you look at? And so they're basing their stuff on
What?
on what?
Yeah.
And a jury hears this.
Right.
And they're supposedly an expert, but they didn't ever to talk to Ian?
Well, one person did not. A couple of people did not. And then that's not all, because this Ian had been under treatment by a family therapist for years before this happened. He was diagnosed with major depression disorder and ADHD.
Okay, well, I have ADHD, and I have never thought, well, let me take that back. I would never.
So, but
maybe
here's
I
the
would.
thing.
I don't know.
After he's arrested, this family physician, therapist rather, he says, I'm going to look at him again. I'm going to be his therapist again. And now he's going to add all kinds of other stuff. Oh, he's Skip Tipple. He's PTSD. He's got all these other
I mean,
things.
now I'm going to be honest. I can see the PTSD if you grew up that way, but that is crazy because did the therapist, I'm curious about this because I just learned this recently. If a therapist takes notes, physical notes, while you are in therapy and then you are later charged with a crime, that's all admissible.
Well,
Was any of that admitted or was it just what he said?
No, it was all brought in voluntarily by the defense
Yeah, because they wanted.
because they were trying to show he was insane.
Well, I'm not going to lie. If you grew up with a dad like that, that probably. Now, I'm still saying that, and I think we need to make this clear. I am your daughter, and I remember this bothering me so much. His dad threatened you. Mm-hmm. Really angered me as your daughter because you weren't doing anything that you'd ever done before. You were covering a trial, but that's the kind of human he was. It wasn't just you he threatened.
Well, and we're talking about people that are still alive and still live in this community. So I'm sure this podcast is going to raise a few eyebrows
And it
as
might,
well.
but you
And
don't have
that's
to threaten
okay.
my dad.
But we're gonna pause one more minute. We're going to be taking a break real quickly, and then we'll be back with more on the Style Podcast.
Get all the Social Security disability benefits you deserve with disability consultant Jeff Bell. Our experienced Florida certified ADR handle claims on a contingency fee basis, meaning you don't pay unless we recover money for you. We have established a strong reputation as a firm that cares and provides the best care to its clients. Call us today or visit cbell.com.
Welcome back to the Style Podcast. I'd like to thank our presenting sponsors, Plaza Cadillac and Plaza Lincoln. We're going to get right back into it with Frank, Shayna's dad. I just can't get over this book.
Okay. Well, see, the thing of it is with an insanity defense is you've got to prove that you did not know right from wrong. Or if you did knew it was wrong, you didn't realize there was any consequences to it. So that's a high bar. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's the U.S. Senate changed the rules after Hinckley shot Reagan. So they made it harder for the defense, okay? So in this trial, Hornsby kept saying, this is crazy, this is crazy. He kept beating on the table, this is crazy. And it is crazy. But the prosecutor, Nick Camuccio, says, well, it may be crazy, but it's not legally insane.
And he wasn't wrong.
No. And so, because one of the things that happened is that once he realized what he had done, Ian says, my dad's going to be so mad. He was more concerned about his dad than the fact that he killed his stepmother.
Because he was scared.
And here's the other thing. So they go back and forth, all these witnesses and all this. And the state's expert says, well, the reason that he killed her is because he was angry. That's why. And so what was he angry about? Is because Sue Ellen, he kept saying, the children are going to be so upset if you get a divorce. And she says, they'll get over it. And he just snapped. Now, snapping is not legally insane either.
Right.
Because that's part of the law. You can be go into a rage. Being in a rage is not insanity.
What did you?
Crime of passion.
And what do you say that you heard that therapist said to you one time?
Prisons are full of people they're normal, sane people that snapped and committed a crime of passion in the heat of the moment.
Yeah. So he's charged with, this is important too, he's not charged with first-degree murder. He's charged with second-degree murder. So they get to...
Even though he had her meet him premeditated.
But he didn't... The argument is that he didn't plan on killing her. He just...
Snapped.
Didn't
So it
he
wasn't
have something?
premeditation.
Didn't he have something with him to put around her neck?
No, they were in her car. He was on foot. He got into her car. There was a phone cord there.
Phone cord.
And he strangled her.
Okay, so he didn't bring it.
No.
Okay, I get it.
So, but anyway, so in a second-degree conviction, you can be sentenced from life to other things, like the 12 years or whatever. Or the state was saying, well, you could sentence him to 37 years, but the judge sentenced him to life. Now, here's the thing, though.
Life, really life, or
Real life.
without the possibility of parole?
Right.
Oh,
The
who was the
maximum.
judge?
It was Judge Welke. So the other thing I was going to say is this, though, is that one of the things that Ian was doing was he showed, and Camuccio brought this out, he showed no remorse. In fact, he says there was jail recordings from the jail, a phone call to his dad, but he says, well, at least there were benefits to this. Really? What was the benefits? Well, she would have killed my brothers and sisters because she was crazy. They didn't trust her to give the children a bath. They said, oh, she's crazy.
They were taught that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know that if the dad
Dad
hadn't
hadn't told them.
Right, and so here's the dad says, you know, like I said, when your toddlers or babies, whatever, your biological mother kidnapped you, and by the way, Sue Ellen was drunk and she was taking drugs, and you know she spends money, so we can't go on vacation.
Which is completely untrue. All of it was untrue.
Yeah, or at least exaggerated.
Yeah, I mean, she worked full time as a hairstylist, didn't
Right.
she?
And then she comes home, she just sits on the couch and crunches ice. Well, she's been on her feet all day, and she's pregnant. So, you know, but he made her out to be the bad person. And he pitted the children against each other. So, you know, it's all control. And this is the kind of stuff he would do for punishment, for just the most minor thing. He would wake up Deja in the middle of the night, make her do push-ups. If the boys did something, he would make them sleep outdoors. If the girls did something, he would make them sleep on the floor of the garage with no blanket.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in the book.
So, yeah. So Deja talked about all that. So that's the kind, and they were just scared. Now, here's the thing. You talk about the vampire case. And in doing that case, I analyzed Rod Farrell quite a bit. And somebody when they were arrested in Louisiana, this defense attorney says, well, this is not the Charles Manson case. And no, it's not, but there are similarities about a cult. Mm-hmm. What you do is you isolate the group completely, and you dominate them. You teach all this crazy stuff over and over again, pound it into their head till they believe it, And
And you limit their outside
Yeah,
contact.
Absolutely.
that's a big thing. 'Cause
Absolutely.
we are creatures that crave interpersonal, and so we crave being around other people, having conversations, things like that. When you ice, that's why they make solitary confinement a punishment.
yeah, so that's what was going on there.
And Charles Manson never even killed anyone himself. He convinced
That we know of.
That we know of, but
yeah.
technically what he did was he convinced a group of people to do everything for him.
Yeah, but my point was going to be, he used fear,
Yeah.
and so did Rod Farrell. Rod Farrell says, if you have fear, that's how you control people. And that book is called Cold Blooded, and there's a book that I wrote called Vampires, Gators, and Wackos that covers a whole bunch of
Yes.
stuff.
So, and tell us the other, because for Christmas, it was very lovely. I really did come out. I had all of his book covers printed and framed, and we were looking at it the other day that you hung up. So we have
Vampires, Gators, and Wackos, Cold Blooded,
Murder in the Graveyard.
And my first book was called Unbroken, the Dorothy Lewis story.
which was an amazing, amazing story of triumph. And
She is another person that her faith carried her through.
Yes,
What
it did.
happened was she went to Winn-Dixie in Eustis,
I'm telling y'all,
and she was carjacked and raped and shot and left for dead, and her children were murdered. And she survived, and her faith carried her through.
obviously that's the only thing that would have.
Yeah, exactly. She's an amazing, amazing
She is.
person.
She is. I read that book.
I
was
haven't read that
amazingly
book,
done.
so
It
I
was
need to do
really
that
good.
one.
It was a hard one for me to read as a mom. Anytime you read something where someone's children, something happens to someone's children, but you can, once you move past and you see that everything she's overcome by the grace of God.
Yeah. So, but John, he's still out there, and he's anyway. I wouldn't say he threatened me exactly, but it wasn't what I would do. This is the thing. I always call the other side. Two sides at
Right.
least.
That's, yeah.
Because it's fair,
Right.
and because it gives you a complete idea of what the story's all about. So I got a real insight after talking with him, and of course I talked to him at the trial. Here's the thing: at the trial, he brought a notebook with, he says, these are examples of her being crazy, Sue Ellen. So it's all Sue Ellen's fault. It was not Ian's. It's certainly not his. That's the kind of mentality that he has.
Right.
And he's like very forceful and this presence.
Right. Intimidating fear.
That's why as soon as I read the title of the book, A Family Cult Tragedy, it really is. It really is a tragedy. And all these children, and the one in particular that committed the murder, was caught up in the crazy sickness beliefs of his father
Yeah.
and caught up in this cult-like mentality and just carried out what he thought he was doing
Yeah.
was right.
Yeah. One of the things that happened was that when Deja ran away from home, in quotes, she ran to her grandparents' house in Eustis.
Her mom's.
Yeah, her mother's mother. And so she says, well, I want to have contact with my siblings. And he says, okay, the only way I'm going to allow that is if you join the Air Force. So she joined the Air Force, and right away he reneged. She had no contact. So she had very little contact with her mother either until she wrote this letter saying, Dear Mom, the reason I left was because I was sexually abused. It's not anything you did or whatever. And that was the first that her mother knew about this allegation. And that's what caused everything to just move forward.
Well, we won't give the whole book away, and we won't give the whole ending away, but we could talk to you all day. So,
I've had quite a few friends message me. He's like, "Well, your dad signed my copy."
yeah, get the book. It's on. I got mine on Audible. It's on Amazon because I like to listen to mine while I'm cleaning the house. But yeah, thank you for joining us today. Well, like I said, we could talk all day, but we are
There's
on.
a lot of great stories that you've covered over the years.
Yeah,
Really
we're-
interesting ones that I have to say, growing up, it didn't alter who you were. And for some people, it could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it was one of those things that you told the truth, you told the story, and,
Fairly. You
Yeah.
did. I think fairly as
very
well.
fairly.
Yeah, that's the only way I know how to do it. I mean, it makes no sense to do it otherwise.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for
Dad.
joining us today on the Style Podcast. We'll see you next time.